Why not?
So Donald Trump is dumb as hell. And Zohran Mamdani just proved without a shadow of a doubt that if you want to get anything from Donald Trump, all you got to do is smile in his face, schmooze him a little bit, and tell him what he wants to hear. Because Zohran Mamdani went to the White House, stood in the Oval Office with Donald Trump, and put on a masterclass of how to dominate your opponent. And MAGAs are pissed about this, and they're very concerned about what they saw happening in that Oval Office. Many of them had built this persona of Zohran Mamdani that was based on hate, racism, and some of the most vile things. And Donald Trump participated in all of that. He once put out a tweet that said, any Jewish person who votes for Zohran Mamdani is stupid. Stupid. He said that. He also said that the more people get to know Zohran Mamdani, the less they like him. I guess that does not apply to Donald Trump, because it seems like the more he got to know him, the more he liked him. I mean, when I'm watching these clips of Donald Trump being asked questions about Zohran Mamdani, his answers seem like he would like to replace J.D. Vance with Zohran Mamdani right now. And this is the part that really makes these MAGAs mad. Because, again, they've said the most racist things about him. They've said the most vile things about him. And to hear someone ask Donald Trump, how would you feel about living in a New York City run by Zohran Mamdani, and hearing Donald Trump say, I would like that. I think he's a good guy. I think he wants to do good things for New York. Again, people listening to this, the MAGAs who are hearing this, have built this guy up to be the boogie monster. They posted things about him and in relation to 9/11, just the most vile things. And then you have Donald Trump in the Oval Office basically singing his praises.
Go ahead, please.
You're a billionaire. You have a different address nowadays than you used to. You used to call New York City home. Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you comfortable?
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job. You know, he may have different views, but in many ways, you know, we were discussing when Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea, because he was strong on not getting ripped off in trade and lots of the things that I've practiced and been very successful on. Tariffs, a lot of things. Bernie Sanders and I agreed on much more than people thought. And when he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth, many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me. And I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that. And, you know, it just turned out to be a statistical truth. But no, I feel very comfortable. I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting.
The reason why Donald Trump is saying things like, after having a meeting with Zohran Mamdani, I don't think it would be bad to live in New York under his rule, is because Zohran Mamdani articulates exactly what he wants to do for the city of New York. And he does a good job doing it. And Donald Trump has this idea of what socialism is and Marxism and all that, and he has no idea. He thinks it's this horrible boogie monster, and this guy's going to come in and do all these bad things. And what he does is he articulates, here's how we're going to pay for buses. And why does that sound so bad? I don't know. I don't understand how people can go to free school, subsidized college, have roads and parks and all of that, and think it's scary as hell to have someone say, I'm going to make sure everybody gets to ride the buses for free. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take our $100 billion budget that we have and somehow reappropriate $800 million of that to make sure people get to ride the bus. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because we realize a lot of people aren't able to get to work because the fares and the bus cost so much, paying for lunch costs so much, all of the traffic and all that. So I'm going to give them a little bit of relief in hopes to get more people to work on time, and we'll have a more productive society that way. And most people listen to that and they go, that makes sense. Nothing sounds scary about that. And then they want to know, oh, how are you going to make rent cheaper for people? First of all, Zohran Mamdani went and he spoke to people in New York. And he asked them, what is important to you guys? And they said, rent is too high. I work here, but I can barely live here. So the things that he's saying, people in New York want. As much as Republicans want you to believe that everyone's going to leave New York because all of a sudden Zohran Mamdani is going to make everybody, just complete socialists and no one's going to be able to be rich or have anything of their own, that's a lie. He asked the people in New York, what do you want? And they said, we need cheaper rent. So he articulates how he's going to do that. And when you hear it, it doesn't sound scary because it's not. And so that's why Donald Trump is sitting there saying, yeah, after having a meeting with the guy, I'm not so afraid of him. What's sad about it is this is typically how most people who would say they were once racist and they're not anymore, how they become less racist or no longer a racist. Because when they get to know people and they realize these people have the goal of making people's lives easier, they can't dispute it. And make no mistake about it, Donald Trump would love to dispute the things that Zohran Mamdani has said because Donald Trump doesn't actually care about anyone. The reason why he can't dispute it is because, again, he's not a smart person. We've heard all of his speeches. So when Zohran Mamdani walks into a room and articulates how he's going to do things, Donald Trump, he's not smart enough to argue against that. So, of course, he's sitting there going, after the meeting, yeah, I kind of like this guy and all of that. They asked him another question. They asked him about, why are you suddenly feeling comfortable with this guy who you've said all these bad things about? And his answer for this, again, is just Donald Trump is not as smart as Zohran Mamdani. So the things that he says, it's just impressive. And when they talk about, Donald Trump even starts talking about, he started out so low, he came out of nowhere. You know how Donald Trump just loves himself some winners. He loves the idea that Zohran Mamdani, he wants to relate to him. He wants to think like this guy came up the way I did. He came out of nowhere and all of that. It really just comes down to he was outmatched by someone who's way smarter than him.
Mr. President, I was going to ask you exactly that. Why do you think there's so much more, so much excitement around this thing in some form?
Because I think he's different. All right? I think he's different. And that can be in a very positive way. But I think he's different than, your typical guy runs, wins, becomes mayor maybe, and nothing exciting. Because he has a chance to really do something great for New York. New York is at a very critical point. And he does need the help of the federal government to really succeed, and we're going to be helping him. But he's different than, your average candidate. He came out of nowhere. I said he has a great campaign manager standing over there. He came out of nowhere. Would you start off at 1 or 2? And then I watched. I said, who is this guy? He was at 1, then he was at 3, then he was at 5, then he was at 9. Then he went up to 17. I said, let's get a little bit of trust there, right? And then all of a sudden he wins a primary that nobody expected he was going to win. It's a great tribute. I mean, it's an amazing thing that he did.
And again, the reason why many MAGAs and Republicans are pissed off is because many of them built an entire persona around hate and bigotry towards Muslims like Zohran Mamdani. And now they're listening to the person who put that hate and bigotry into their heart tell them, I like this guy. I like this guy. So they're pissed. I mean, Laura Loomer herself, she actually, for one of the first times, used Donald Trump's name. She said, I don't understand why Trump is in the Oval Office saying this guy's a good guy. We know he's this and that. And she wants everyone to still kind of corral around the idea that he's this scary Muslim guy who's somehow related to, the 9/11 attackers and just crappy shit like that. And now you got Donald Trump, who was just outsmarted, outplayed, sitting in the Oval Office saying, I like this guy, I live in New York under him, and all this type of stuff. And make no mistake about it. This is not me saying I trust Donald Trump. I don't trust that dude at all. I don't care what he says. What I do care about is that someone like Zohran Mamdani is able to articulate what he wants to get done, and that will bring in more voters to the Democratic Party. More Democrats need to lean in on saying the things that he is saying. We need people's rent prices to be cheaper. We need people to be able to buy homes. We need people to be able to buy groceries. These are the things that he's saying. He's standing 10 toes down on saying, I'm a democratic socialist. I want to take care of people with their tax-paying dollars. And that is the reason why he won the way that he won. And more Democrats need to follow his lead. So that is what I care about. I care about the fact that on a national stage, in front of a national audience, he took care of business. He's showing other Democrats what they need to do. If you guys want to win the midterms, here's the blueprint. You need to take care of people. You need to say what you're going to do. And then when you get elected, do exactly what you said you were going to do. And that will get more people like him elected, which will start to change things in this country. Because if we don't win the midterms, you want to see an unhinged Donald Trump, you will see that. Because if you don't get the House and the Senate to flip blue, you're going to see a dude running around like you've never seen before. Believe me, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be exactly what we don't want. So, Democrats, please lean in. Lean into feeling like people's tax-paying dollars should go towards making their lives better. That is what Zohran Mamdani is doing. That is what other Democrats have done. If you want to take back the House and the Senate, here's the blueprint. Use it. Period.
Don't want no enemies or ops. Envy in their heart, I tell them stop. Vacation on the yacht.